This week's episode of Still Untitled is brought to you by Stitcher Premium. Stitcher Premium gets you completely ad-free episodes of hundreds of shows like Comedy Bang Bang, WTF with Mark Maron, and How Did This Get Made? You also get 21,000 hours of exclusive content, and new exclusive originals like Marvel's Wolverine are launching every week for Stitcher Premium members. If you love podcasts, you got to check it out. When you listen to ad-free episodes in Stitcher Premium, your favorite podcasters also get paid. Help support your favorite shows and join Stitcher Premium today. For a free month of listening, go to StitcherPremium.com and use the promo code Untitled. And now on with the show.
Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam 7 Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm. Thank you, Will.
You said I was
blowing up
so
the mic.
understated, I barely knew you were there.
It was too hot. Bringing it down. Guys,
Gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade.
It was Maker Faire this weekend.
It was. What a magical and lovely place.
It's the very best.
Yeah. And Maker Faire had a couple of additions this year that it hasn't had before. One was at props and a prop contest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The 501st was in strong display, and a whole bunch of cosplay was going on officially. I mean, people have worn costumes to all the Maker Fairs.
I saw the Mandalorians
Yes,
there
yes.
as well, which I hadn't seen at a con in ages, so that was cool.
I rode in one of their land speeders.
Yes.
A Vallejo contingent that has an annual Vallejo parade. These guys were awesome. The two things about land speeders that are a genuine ass kicker are the bubble windshield and the engine nacelles, the three engines.
Really? Why are the engine nacelles
they're
hard?
a pain in the butt to model, right?
Okay.
Everything else you could kind of do with plywood, but those you can't quite. The Vallejo Mercs came up with this. I don't know if it was the Vallejo Mercs, but the guy driving it came up with a great solution for both. The bubble window was a skylight he cut up.
Oh, man, that's super smart.
I know.
Yeah.
And the engines were old conga drums. They were the perfect shape.
They were long and
They're fatter at the front than they are at the end, and they cut them up and put some details on the sides, and they were...
Was this the gray
that's
one?
industrious.
Yeah, the
It's
gray
kind of
one.
grayish. Yeah, I saw that one. I was blown away.
Yeah, it was a golf cart.
My
It
daughter
an
was
old golf
unimpressed.
Wow. We both had land speeder adventures.
You had some
Yeah.
too?
One of the people we met, a guy named Adam Woodworth, who makes foam Star Wars quadcopters. So he
Did he do that?
Well, he works for Google also.
Did he
and
do the Tyridium shuttle that I saw recently?
Is
the
the Imperial Shuttle? Yeah, yes.
yeah.
So he said that one. So the Imperial Shuttle, that not only does it fly, but also the wings go up and down.
Yeah. No, it's so
And
good.
it's
And
really
because
like foam.
And because you can't see the rotors
Yeah.
that are basically at the four corners of it, it's uncanny.
And he said that thing outdoors sucks because all the light
it's all
foam.
just
sure.
Yeah,
sail.
but because he was flying it indoors at Maker Faire in their cage, it was perfect. And he's done a Slave 1 which flies upright. He's done an Imperial droid which goes, and he's done an
Droid?
X-wing that goes a VTOL.
Oh, he does an Imperial.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But for the land speeder, what he did was he took the Radio Flyer. The Radio Flyer has a kids land speeder
Yeah.
that you can get for like $200. Toys R Us going out of business has it for like $150, and he took the shell of that and it fit perfectly over a Razor. Remember Razor had those little scooters?
Yeah.
They still
Razor
make them,
makes a go-kart called the Crazy Cart that is a
right.
3-wheeled vehicle and fits like an adult, and the land speeder almost fits perfectly around that. And then he what it has accelerator, no brakes, but has
Reverse?
a drifter.
Well, you can like release the transmission?
You lift up the back wheels and then you start drifting.
Wow.
So it's a drifting land speeder.
Wow.
And a full-grown adult like me in that.
Did you drive it?
Yes,
Was it good?
it was awesome.
Oh man, this
Yeah.
sounds. Do you have footage?
I have footage.
It'll go up.
There's a video on the site right now about it,
Awesome.
and
I
we can
haven't
build
checked it
one.
out. Yeah.
The Razor thing is like $250.
Oh, we got to build one.
and yeah, and it's just taking apart the land speeder, putting it on top, and doing some
Yes, Will.
minor tweaks.
I think instead of building one, I think you should build two and have a
You're
race.
totally right.
Because why build one when you can buy two for
what
twice
could
the
be
price?
more fun than one?
Yeah,
two.
two.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can take them out to the polo field and go around
Yeah.
the track, see who wins.
Oh,
Hopefully not get any injuries.
The Maker Faire, I keep wanting to say Comic-Con because they feel quite similar in in a love of what we're doing fan aspect. Like everyone there is there to play.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find really invigorating about moving around through Maker Faire and engaging with the fans.
Well, it's such a big area, and I know New York is even bigger, but there's so many different independent sections. You could go, and a lot of people do go just to wander and dip into one section, dip in another section. And it's great because you get really inspired. For us,
yeah.
you get super inspired by people who are obsessed about the one thing, whether it's like crocheting or model trains, or if you're there and you can meet your fellow people who are interested in those things, and you could stay in that one spot the whole time and get a full weekend's worth of experience there.
Yeah, or like I was there with my daughter mostly, so we were exploring and doing like just kind of going where she wanted to go and looking at what she wanted to see. And
hey, bubbles.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, the guys making those helium foam bubbles, I don't know if you saw
they were,
those.
No, one of them came by me and like
Holy
said
cow.
hello.
So I listened to him talk about how he designed that whole thing. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's great. So they designed it so they wouldn't waste a ton of helium. So they wanted to make one bottle of helium last for 48 hours or something insane.
So they did a helium air mixture?
So they're doing a helium air mixture. It took them a long time to figure out how to do the helium air mixture without requiring like a gas infuser that's really expensive.
Sure.
What
did he use, a Venturi?
I missed that part because I was chasing a 5-year-old. But the upshot was one tank of gas lasts a really long time. And the bubble mixture that they devised is very robust. So the bubbles hold their shape. So they had boxes that were maybe 3 feet by 3 feet or 2 feet by 2 feet that had a bubbler in the bottom that was making the bubbles form. And then that would force up the bubbles in a structure, in a matrix.
Yeah.
And then they had forms. Like it was like a Play-Doh fun factory.
Wow.
So the forms at the top would shape them into stars or mushrooms or
extrude-
whatever.
oh my gosh.
And then they just cut them off. They were solid enough they could cut them off with a piece of PVC pipe. And then they just kind of float up and go where the wind took them.
That's magic.
And like
No, I know one of them
was
like
amazing.
moved by me and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
yeah, it looked like little bits of floating. Like
neutrally buoyant.
it was incredible. It was
Yeah.
really, really cool.
That's exciting.
And to Adam's point about this year having things like cosplay and prop making, I mean, full disclosure, Will and I are on the advisory board, and we have a good relationship with Make. Like one of the things that in conversations with the people putting on the convention ahead of Maker Faire is letting them know that we'd love to see more of these things.
And different, like I went in and talked about virtual reality and mixed reality and stuff like that. We talked about, and then we ended up talking about board games. So I don't think we made it in time. We had the conversation in time to get them in for this San Mateo, although there were some board game people there. But like designing a board game is a designed object, just like a car or a rocket or anything else.
And that has a rabid and dedicated fandom and ecosystem. Yeah, totally.
Well, and in a way that like video games are more egalitarian now than they have been since the 80s or 90s. But it's still, depending on the type of game you want, it's a big investment to make a game. A board game is something that you can take dice and paper and cards.
Yeah.
And do your basic design for practically nothing.
Totally.
And just practice and figure out what your game is. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Adam, on Sunday you also were there to give your, now it's officially called the Sunday Sermon.
It is officially called that. It's
Brother Adam. Preach to me.
I will tell you that I only found out, I've said this last year, that I only found out that it was called the Sunday Sermon a couple of years ago. That it had been informally called that long before I knew that was what it was being referred to. And now, last year, I pushed towards that. This year, I also pushed towards that, but not, it wasn't like I was, no, that's not me. That's Norm.
Yeah, Norm did it. That Norm right there.
This year, I knew that I wanted to talk about sharing ideas and things and materials and processes. I knew I wanted to talk about sharing your toys. And that's the only thing I held in my brain. So this is sometimes how I do this. I just held that thought in my brain. And Sunday morning, I got up at 7 a.m. And in 90 minutes, I wrote that 14-minute piece that I spoke. And I was really surprised where it went. I said that on stage. I didn't realize it was going to go this philosophical, as it were. But I was really pleased with how it came out, and the response has been incredibly lovely.
Yeah, we're gonna put the full audio of that after this podcast. But you said it went somewhere you didn't expect. Is it in form, like in structure, or just in theme? Like what was it before it ended up being what it ended up being?
Well, so I just started by talking about the different ways in which people haven't shared with me in the past, and how I found that, and the ways in which I find sharing, again, my stuff, my processes, my knowledge, my things, how I find that to be invigorating and self-perpetuating in terms of the energy it takes to make stuff and to be part of a community. But the probably the last couple of minutes, I just went straight towards the raw philosophy of why that's so important to me and why it's so important right now. And then I talked about being able to listen to other people's stories. I've talked a lot about telling our stories. And frankly, lately I've been confronting the fact that there are many situations in which I don't listen enough. This has been something that I've known about and been dealing with my whole life, but I decided to talk about that on stage, and not from a vantage point of I know this, so you should follow this. It's that we really need to listen to the stories of the people whose experience is radically different than ours. And you know, I was surprised when I wrote it how true this was, but I said, you know, shutting out the voices of others has never been a path to greatness. This is like, that is one of the most unassailable things I have ever written down. Of like, yep, nope, that checks out. I'm never, I could defend that with my life.
And I love that sharing defies the laws of physics.
Mm-hmm. The more you do, the more you get.
Yeah.
Fight entropy, man.
Yeah. but also, like, sharing and listening are the acts, but generosity, which is what you started with, is the motivation.
Well, and it's the side product. I mean, sitting there and listening to someone else's experience and watching and really engaging. Look, I recently, a few weeks ago, I was at dinner with someone who was being a little bit of a blowhard, and I was watching them talk to me, and I was thinking, wow, this is a little boring. But then I was thinking, how many people have I buttonholed from the other side of this exact equation? How many? Oh my God, so many. I am going to sit here and listen to this guy, and I'm going to ask him more questions about the things he's talking about. Yeah. And I watched him just light up, and I was like, right, we all want to be seen and heard. And it's a great practice to listen, and I am not as good at it as I wish I was, and I seek to be better.
Yeah, I think that's all there is to say about it. It's worth totally listening to. The videos on the site, but again, if you're listening to the podcast, we're going to put that at the end of the podcast.
Cool.
Well.
Also, signed autographs for a couple of hours. Such great stories. People bring stuff to give me. They bring stuff to show me. A couple of young illustrators did drawings with beautiful... I mean, it's intense when some 13-year-old kid brings their sketchbook for me to sign and said, I started drawing because of watching your videos on Tested, and they're so much better at drawing than I will ever be. And that is like awesome.
But that's great. I mean, that stuff, like, that's the thing that I love. I've said this before, I know, but the thing that I love about Maker Faire is walking around and looking at 5-year-olds who are tired of looking at robots. Because I'm like, oh, right. If there's a 5-year-old that's they've seen more robots in the first 5 minutes walking around Maker Faire that I saw until I was 20, probably.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like the things that these kids we're already starting to see it. The kids, you know, a few years ago when we saw the kids that made the Battlestar Galactica simulator, they were like high school kids. They'd been coming to Maker Faire since they were 8. And when they were 15, they decided they wanted to build a 3-axis space sim, you know, like a flight trainer, cockpit flight trainer. We see stuff like, it's like Open ROV. Those guys have been coming to Maker Faire since I've been coming to Maker Faire.
Yeah.
And they started out with a thing that was glued together plexiglass, and now they have a underwater robot that goes fast enough that the pool that they've been bringing for 10 years isn't big enough to accelerate to full speed, and they can actually fight currents in rivers and stuff like that and take that thing to places they've never been able to go before.
Actually, some little girl at my autograph signing, she was like, I have made some robots. I was like, oh, have you made any robots recently? And she's like, nah, just an underwater one.
Yeah. Right, like the things that these kids are exposed to shapes the way they view the world, and like I think
what's possible.
Yeah, and what's possible for them to do. And my daughter walks away from this. She's 5. She walks away from this and she says, "Oh, I want to make everything. I want to do everything when I grow up." What do you want? Did you see anything you think you might want to do when you grow up? I want to do everything. Dad.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know what else I love about Maker Faire is how many of our awesome friends and colleagues come to town.
Oh, it's so good.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
so-
Bill Duran was here for a few days. We got to hang out. He brought his wife. Laura Kampf, the incomparable Laura Kampf, was here. We actually shot a one-day build with her.
Collaborate with both those
awesome.
people.
Yep.
Yeah, this week.
That'll go up on the site on last Thursday. Because a lot of people come from all over the country who are working hard to bring making and maker culture to the most marginalized communities that really need it. A couple of my fellow board members from Nation of Makers and I held an event for 40 people here in the cave. That was just a long conversation with some of the old people from Obama's Office of Science and Technology Policy, some people I knew, many people that I didn't, a really, really fruitful conversation. And all of that and kind of engendered by the fact that they're all here for Maker Faire.
It's I mean, they call it the world's greatest show and tell, but I think that really undersells what you get out of coming to this event
To
and
share
seeing in
and
person. Yeah, well, and it's on all scales. So it's like the guys who made the Mondo Spider that we saw years ago brought their latest creation, which is like a quadrupedal
prosthesis.
gorilla.
I was
walker.
surprised you didn't
yeah.
come in on your speech in that.
I understand.
This is that was
having-
like 8,000
I don't think I
pound.
could drive it.
No,
No,
they can barely
one
drive
person
it.
can drive it.
So
Yeah.
it was really interesting. The guy, Jonathan Tippett's his name, and
It's
he's
a beautiful device.
it's not like a strong beach linkage system.
looks like it
It's-
is, but not.
But it's not. But 4 legs, but each leg's controlled by a person's limb, his limb.
yeah.
So 2 arms and 2 legs, and he's still learning to walk in it. So, but we see every time, like, their goal is mech racing and running at 30 kilometers an hour down a sand dune or something. But at Maker Faire, it's not about showing that off. It's about showing the milestone of now I can do a turn.
I can lift
right.
one
And you're-
leg.
Yeah.
Like that was part of it. Part of its thing.
There was another guy there in a Strand-based wheelchair.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so elegant.
So elegant.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, he had me sign the first, I think it was the first part that failed on it.
Oh, cool.
And he said he had built it for Burning Man last year, and it had failed just before leaving for Burning Man, so he couldn't bring it. And so he's like, I'm here at Maker Faire learning new ways that it fails.
Yeah.
And it was very smooth. And I kept looking underneath for wheels. No wheels. That is solely on the footpath.
So many
That's
feet.
so good.
There's a lot of Strand Beasts out there that have wheels as a backup. Not this one.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just the big scale stuff. It's not the stuff that somebody spends 1,000 hours on some enormous project, 200,000 hours on a huge enormous project like
Yeah.
the prosthesis. There were people. There was a team that 3D prints marble mazes, like little fidget mazes where the marbles just
haven't
go
seen
through.
that.
And they built a bunch of incredible designs. They were in a little booth in one of the big rooms, but they had designed a Sisyphus climber.
Oh.
That used an incredibly clever magnetic armature to kind of like. So okay, it's a screw, like a screw on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
The marble rides the screw down when it gets to the top.
Yeah.
And then there's a magnet that just rotates around the inside of a cylinder on the inside of the screw that rides it back up to the top of the thing.
nice.
And they designed it. They'd worked on it enough so that like it's 3D printed. The angle of the slope was right so that the magnet wouldn't catch the ball on the way down.
Right.
But it was obviously strong enough to hold it on the way up.
Wow.
And it's just somebody was like, I want to make this thing. I think it's going to be really cool. And then they spent the time to figure it out. And like they solved, it's a problem that didn't exist. There's no obvious, like it's not,
Yeah.
it's neat. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The entirety of it is that it's neat. And
Wow.
that stuff is incredible.
I got inspired, and I realized also that we go into full production on Mythbusters Junior very soon.
Yeah.
And that I realized, I've got to build my Comic-Con costume now.
Oh, right.
Because time is gonna get short very
Yeah.
quickly. So I made great strides on my Comic-Con build yesterday.
I'm like, Adam, it's May. We've never seen you work on a Comic-Con costume in May
When
before.
Comic-Con's July?
July. Yeah,
this
2
is
months.
really early.
I'm just making sure I don't get caught out. I also have, before Comic-Con, I'm also heading to do to an artist colony to do some construction of a special project I'm working
cool.
on. And so that too is also something that I have to get up and running. And I might be using photogrammetry of some old data that I gathered in order to make this other project work.
That's cool.
Very cool. Norm,
That's cool.
anything else you saw that was exceptional?
Well, one of the things I wanted to point out is that Adam talks about a lot of people coming into town, right? And it's New York is officially the World Maker Faire, but I met a lot of people who had come from other countries, from Australia, from England, for Bay Area Maker Faire, and there's like definitely a Silicon Valley vibe to some of the projects there. I never thought of Maker Faire. In my mind, it was never like a Comic-Con or Dragon Con. It was always like the event for the hours from 10 to 6. That's the fair. But when we go to a Comic-Con, there's a lot of after parties,
stuff, yeah.
right? And this is the first year that I heard about a lot of the after stuff that went on. A lot of people like Bill and Laura who met up at restaurants and bars and groups that set up meetups after Maker Faire. And I think it's something that I would love to see more of.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Because, what you see during the fair is awesome, but you're also running around a lot.
Very little time to really engage.
And to meet your fellow people afterward at a shared space close to the fairgrounds, I think is something that I would love to join more of those next year.
I think that would be cool.
But the coolest thing I saw, the trains. I met some wonderful train
steam
folks.
Trains?
There are two train groups.
What?
Really?
I only saw one.
They're the
Were these like the trains we saw in?
Yes, which we're not going to talk about. But we did see some trains at one point in the past year. One group, model train builders who make real steam trains that run on Welsh coal, clean Welsh coal, and
It's
not electric.
There's no such thing as clean coal, Norm.
I know. The cleanest you could have it. The most sanctioned coal.
There you go.
The pieces of coal that they use are about this big. They're about a half an inch square.
The engineers are scooping the coal into the burners and explaining how at that small scale they have to run. They have to tune their engine, make sure the cooling's there. They self lubricate, and they run around the track. And because there's no engineer on the train, they have to make sure it all works because if you run a train, you got to change the power for elevation and braking.
That's true. That's insane.
They adjust. I mean, they adjust the outflow on the steam. I sat. My daughter was fascinated with those. So we sat and watched them for a long time. And I got to talk to them. My favorite part about that steam engine setup actually is how they level the track.
Yeah.
So they have an oval that's probably 30 feet long and 15 or 20 feet wide.
Being perfectly level is
and it has to be perfectly level.
So you have no adjustments needed for elevation.
So they don't have to adjust speed and stuff, and they don't crash right coming down the hill. And what they've done is they have 4 articulated legs that are like the sliding kind of tripody legs with the friction mounts, but they put round bubble levels on each end of each platform. So they level the first one. Right. And then they level the second one, and they just keep working their way around like they're laying tracks. Yeah. And as long as each individual piece is level after the first one, then when they get to the other side, then it connects.
Right. They make connected bubble levels for pool tables.
Oh, like on a bar?
That it's water filled. It's been a long time since I've seen an ad for one, but they're water filled with Tygon tubing in between the pucks that you could probably extend. Because it's meant for making sure the pool table is level across its entire width.
The tables are rigid metal, and they just have the bubble levels on each end of each segment.
Okay, right.
So it's the same thing, basically. As long as 2 bubbles are level.
As 2 edges meet and they're both level, you're good.
I asked him how long it takes him to set up the track, and he's like, well, we used to do it with sawhorses and shims, and that was bad. This still takes a long time, but it's a lot better. So. And
then the second train group, I just fell in love with. This is the European train enthusiasts, the Bay Area Garden Railroad Society. Big shout out to them. They're the ones inside the big expo hall, and they're the ones who build the miniatures, the electric trains.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah.
And they have this massive train set made of 28 different segments. Each segment's about like a yard long.
Oh, man.
But they're all modular. So their standard is as long as your grass has the same tone of color and as everyone has the same profile for the end of their segment where it's a little bit elevated in the back and it dips down the front, they can have any arrangement. And
then the track matches?
And they all match. And then the group shares the corners. And everyone builds their own segment or
That's
two.
That's exceptional.
That's really
And it takes them 2 hours to set the whole thing up. And it's a segment. One of the segments was made 25 years ago, and one was made 2 years ago, and they all electronically work.
That's super clever.
And everyone just runs their trains on there.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to the R2 and BB-8 builders clubs because they are always there in force.
They are.
And the thing that they do is magic. Like if you want to smile a lot, this is the closest I've ever felt to being inside your Chewbacca costume. But if you walk around and follow some people driving R2s, and then like the hit that they get from kids and adults too, but mostly kids.
Because what they want to give you is the experience of engaging with a droid.
Yeah.
Like, what could be... When I built the R2, my best friend was like, dude, you're making a happiness machine because if R2's in your house, how could you be sad?
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Like they're little kids and they see him and they're shy at first and they kind of look and then they're like, and then they walk up to him, look at him, and he turns and looks and beeps at them and they're like, yeah, exactly. It is
awesome.
It is the best, and like those people spend thousands of hours building these robots. They take them out, they drive them out into the crowd of people at Maker Faire, and it's got to be scary and exciting and all of the things. But it's one of my favorite things.
So
there.
awesome.
It's really good.
I watched Black Panther 3 times this week.
A lot of plane travel.
I was on United going to Florida and back, and so I watched it twice on the way there and once on the way back. Can I tell you that movie gets better every single time you watch it? I cry every time, and man, I can't figure out who's the villain anymore. I agree entirely with Killmonger, except that he's a monster.
Yeah, except for that, yeah. Other than the mass murder problem.
Other than that, it's super awesome to watch that, and yeah, that was. And we went and saw Raiders last night at the Alamo Draft House with
Yes.
Kishore.
Yes.
That
Saw
was,
you in the cave practicing your whip yesterday.
Yes, I did not execute it on stage because it just it felt like the stage was too small, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to screw any. I didn't want to harm anybody.
You didn't want to don't want to hit the screen either.
No, I don't want to hit the screen.
Yeah.
That would be frowned upon. Were you in the big theater?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Theater One.
Nice. Kishore has a monthly movie series at the Alamo Draft House in San Francisco. So if you're a Bay Area local, check it out. His
First
next
Monday.
Yeah, and
Or last Monday.
How do I not know this?
it's about science and cinema. So
never
they do
mind then.
talks. They've done
place
Alien,
for
they've
science in
done
America.
Raiders, and next month I believe is Apollo 13. I wanna
Apollo
say.
13. Yeah, I
yeah.
realized. Oh, I got to be there. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll
Exactly.
come for that one. That
Yeah.
sounds pretty good.
It was really fun. And Raiders, still a perfect movie.
Oh, I mean, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, totally amazing.
A little bit of subversive move, he said, because he did it on the week that Solo comes out.
Ah.
Which is a subtle reminder that we all have homework this week, because I'm sure we'll be talking about the movie
you-
next week.
Can I tell you what I'm nervous about Solo? And I have not watched a single trailer.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about Chewie. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I can see that.
That they don't get
nervous
Chewie,
about
right?
Chewie.
I bet he lives.
I'm sure.
I think
Look,
he makes it.
Peter Mayhew. What Peter Mayhew did with
maybe
Chewbacca.
maybe Chewbacca is Chewbacca too.
What Peter Mayhew did with Chewbacca is super important and super specific,
Yeah.
and I'm nervous about the new execution of Chewie.
Did we talk about the puppeted performances a few weeks ago? There was a documentary. Oh God, where was it? I'm gonna have to do some homework and bring this back up next
Okay.
week.
All right.
Because there was a real talk about what Andy Serkis does and how there's a direct lineage from Peter Mayhew and Kenny Baker and Anthony Daniels.
Oh, that's
and
a lovely
guys
thing.
in
You're totally
costumes.
right. Yeah.
Straight through to what Andy Serkis does.
Andy Serkis and Josh Brolin in Infinity
Exactly,
War,
and
yeah.
how that's never been really recognized as a separate as a like for a long time the
Acting.
guys in the suits were not given serious performer credit.
Right. Right.
And I mean I think that's starting to change with what Andy Serkis and Josh Brolin have done.
Terry Notary and yeah.
But it's still they're kind of too.
Yeah, it's still in this nether region of acting.
Yeah.
that's not getting its full due.
Well,
It's-
you can't see their faces, Adam, so it's not real acting.
I got two more things
Yeah.
before we wrap up. One related to puppetry. There's a great video that's being shared around on Twitter last week of an outtake from a Jim Henson production. It's Frank Oz.
I have Jug Band.
It's
Jug
from
Band, yeah.
Emmett Otter's Jug Band band.
I haven't
And-
watched that yet. Is it great?
The
outtake?
If you the outtake, if you watch it, it's like there are two videos, total of like 3 minutes, but it will make you smile and laugh. It's basically they stay in character while the film crew is trying to get this one gag to work, and they improv.
It's Frank Oz in the Mom Otter, right?
Yes, and it is one of the most delightful things you will ever see.
Awesome.
Ever, even if you
very
don't
good.
know the Muppets. And the other thing, huge shout out. Bill and I were working on a project yesterday actually, and we're making a model kit, and we did some electronics in the model kit. And a lot of times you buy garage kits, and you buy like or you buy a model kit, and then there'll be some electronics you can buy afterward on eBay because people make aftermarket kits. Our board on the kit, we were doing soldering, we're getting the LEDs wired up, the sound, everything, and it wouldn't work. And we're troubleshooting. Oh no, what's going on? And then we realize after like 10 minutes troubleshooting, the board was missing the chip, the controller
The
chip.
IC chip.
The IC.
Was just a port.
It was just a port. And I'm like, we're
There's a
morons.
socket. Oh my god.
You
There's
have
a
to solder
socket.
it on.
It's not in the bag, or
Oh,
it
okay.
was in the bag. So like, what do we do? Oh, this shoot is a bust. So we look at the instructions, and the person who made the kit has his contact phone number on there, an email, and says, "Call me if you have any problems." I'm like, no way. Like, first of all, is this a kit that was made like 10 years ago? No way, right? Like, it wasn't. It was like 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Called up, just phone called someone.
Yeah.
Take that in. I
On the
called
phone, like a
someone
peasant?
on the
Did that
phone.
actually work? And they answered the phone?
They answered the phone.
Wow.
I described my problem. They knew exactly the kit I was talking about. That person lives in the South Bay, and I drove down to his house yesterday after work to pick up a new IC,
That he
test it,
Wow.
and that he burned that day,
Amazing.
and that we tested there, and then I hung out for like half an hour in his garage looking at his scratch builds and his model kits, and learned that there's a model kit club that's like half a mile from my house in San Francisco that meets every month.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
So I know what you're doing next month.
So
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is the other thing about Maker Faire is if you're into something weird and you have a heart, like you don't have the time to go drill down through 3,000 forum posts to figure out how you meet other people who are into this weird thing.
Yeah.
Guy was talking to some tiny houses people at Maker Faire. And I'm not super into tiny houses, but like it's an interesting topic. And I was like, how did you get into this? Like, well, actually, we came to Maker Faire last year. There were some tiny houses people here. and you like that's the power of getting all of these people in the same place.
Totally.
That's super cool,
Yeah.
Norm.
I was blown away.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't believe that you used this 18th century technology, the telephone, 19th century technology.
Margaret, hook me up to Pennsylvania 65000.
Next week, I think we'll probably be talking about Solo.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll have to go see it
Yeah,
this weekend.
or Deadpool. I don't know. We'll choose our poison. Yeah, one of those. They're both supposed to be good.
Did you guys see that on Reddit today, fans of Donald Glover have taken over not the Donald, but the slightly less bad the Donald subreddit and made that the subreddit for the one true Donald.
That Donald Glover is the one
The
true
Donald
Donald?
Glover
I love
is
this
the one
plan.
true Donald.
That makes me
Wow.
very happy.
Yeah. So there we
All
go.
right. I think that's a great place to leave.
See you guys next week. Hey, but you're going to run the audio for
Yes,
Adam's talk
if
on
you listen to the audio of the version of the podcast, you will see you'll hear the full sermon after this, and if you watch the video, there's a link below to watch the video as well.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
Hey, there's a new episode of the Foo Show out now.
Yes!
It features you guys. It's the three of us in a virtual representation of the shop.
Fabulous.
You can check it out on
And,
Steam VR
you can-
and FooVR.com.
Yeah, just go to Steam and type Foo Show, and
All
it'll
right.
be right
All right.
there. It's
Cool.
$5.
Thanks,
See ya.
guys.
Bye. This week's episode is also brought to you by Udemy, the largest marketplace for online learning. Want to expand your potential? With over 65,000 courses starting at just $11.99, Udemy can help you develop your skills and discover new passions. Students around the world have used Udemy to get ahead and even switch careers. Visit ude.my/untitled or download the Udemy app to learn anytime, anywhere. We'll see you next time.